Hi, this is Chris Smith for T3.com, and today we have a very special treat for you. It's not out in the UK for months, we haven't even got a release date, but we've been over to the States and picked up one of the brand new Palm Pres available on the Sprint network now in the US and brought it all the way back to show you today. So let's lift it out of the box here and show you the form factor on the Palm Pre. Look how small it is. It fits in my hand really well with this slide out QWERTY keyboard and the lovely curved action on this that we first saw at CES back in January. Now, unfortunately, with this being a US model, we're not able to access all of the features such as the internet and the calling and texting and things like that. But we can show you some of the features that we think makes this a true iPhone contender. Now, one of the key selling points that Palm have been telling us about since day one on this phone is the ability to multitask with the new WebOS operating system. Just as you'd be able to on your PC or your laptop, open multiple apps, run them all at the same time and flick between them quite easily. And it really is that simple. As you can see, I've got multiple applications here on the home screen and flicking between them is really easy. I've got my music player open here, then my photo library, contact sheet and the dialer. So I want to open my photos, you flick over to that, just push on it there and select a photo. And there we go, it loads. Now, if I don't want to use that application anymore, I run my finger from the bottom of the touchscreen to the top, and it brings it back into the menu system here. If I want to get rid of the application completely, all I need to do is flick it up with a flick of my finger and that's gone, that's closed the application. Now, casting aside and bringing forward your apps like so is just a small indication of just how good the touchscreen is on the Palm Pre. One of the really cool features that we fell in love with as soon as we saw it on CES was the ability to bring this ripple effect up at the bottom of the screen here. So if you lift it up with your finger, and you can scroll across 5 icons that you can keep at the bottom of the phone at all times. So I've got the launcher, I've got Google Maps, I've got the calendar, I've got my contacts, and I've got my dialer. So you figure out which one you want. So I want to go to the launcher, and up it comes really quickly. It's so intuitive, really nice to use. And we kind of found ourselves just playing with it just for the sake of it. It really is that nice. Once you're in the launcher here, you can see the different screens where you can access the application on the phone, both across and down by sliding. And we're going to open the music player to give you a quick look at that. And that works very well with the touchscreen also. It's very intuitive. So if we select our artists, we select some Motley Crue, and we can flick through these songs here really easily, just like on the iPhone. If I decide I don't want to use this application anymore, again, I slide up from beneath the touchscreen and then cast it aside. Really intuitive, really nice to use, again, with the Palm Pre. Again, just like the iPhone, the Palm Pre does contain some multi-touch features which allows you to zoom in by pinching on the photos. So if I open this picture of a lovely sunset here on the Palm Pre, it takes a while just to clear up, and then I can zoom in on that with the pinching action and zoom back in. If I decide I want to put it back to the original size, a nice double tap would do that. If I don't want to see it anymore, cast it aside again. Now, another idea we loved about the Palm Pre from the very start was the idea of synchronizing all of your conversations within one window. So your IMs, your chats, and your text messages with the same person would be stored in the same place. Also, the search function on the phone, which we think is very good and has now just been added to the iPhone 3.0 software, but we'll show it you here too. So, for example, if I wanted to find a person that's in my contacts list, I can just start searching on the home screen here by typing into the QWERTY keyboard. I typed in Kat and it's found Kat Hannaford here at T3, but if she wasn't in my contacts book, I could carry on searching for something else. So if I add a double T in there, then Kat disappears from the screen, and I've got things like Google Maps, Wikipedia and Twitter, so I can search all of those directly from my home screen just by typing into the QWERTY keypad here. So we've talked about the touchscreen on the Palm Pre, but the screen itself is actually nothing to complain about either. It's 480 by 320, which is exactly the same as the Apple iPhone, but because this screen is slightly smaller, in theory it should be better. We're not sure if that works out in practice. The images aren't the crispest we've ever seen on a mobile phone, but it's still a very good screen. The camera on the Palm Pre is as we'd expect from a smartphone of this ilk. It's around the same size as the one on the new iPhone 3GS, the HTC Magic and the T-Mobile G1, similar smartphones that will be competing with the Palm Pre. You're not going to get the world-class images that you get from a Sony Cybershot camera with their 12 megapixel extravaganzas, but the point is, with a phone like this, do you really need it? We think not, and we think the camera on this phone is very much acceptable. So we've lauded the touchscreen on the Pre, praised Palm to the heavens for their WebOS operating system, and congratulated them on the intuitive search functionality they've built into the Palm Pre. But with this comes a price, and that price is the build quality. As you can see, the edges to the Palm Pre are quite sharp, and it does feel quite plasticky in certain places. The QWERTY keyboard is as cramped as we've ever seen on a handheld device, and we think it would have benefited much more from the larger keys that we would have seen on something like the BlackBerry Bold. We are starting to get better at it now, but to begin with, we made an awful lot of mistakes using the Palm Pre's cramped QWERTY keyboard, and the lack of predictive text on the phone is also quite puzzling, considering that people are going to be making a lot of mistakes, particularly if you have big hands. With regards to the battery, you're not going to get much longer than a day's full use out of the Palm Pre. We had to charge it after the first day, but we can't say that's any different for phones like the iPhone or the HTC Magic, which are battery drainers also. So to sum up, apart from the slightly dubious build quality, there are so many things to shout about with the Palm Pre. Our American friends who've been able to use the full version can't speak highly enough of it. The email interface is supposedly great and easy to use. The WebOS operating system and the ability to multitask is fantastic, as is the ability to house all of your conversations within one window. All of the feedback, apart from the build quality, from the United States is top notch. And the overriding theory is this really does replicate the experience of using your computer or your laptop like no other mobile phone before, and it really does throw down the gauntlet to mobile phone makers everywhere. So we've talked you through the features on this US model the best we can, and the next step for us is to get our hands on a UK piece of kit. We're not quite sure when that will be yet, hopefully in the coming months, but as soon as we do, rest assured we'll have it back in the studio for a full test of the Palm Pre, the most talked about mobile phone launch this year.